Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, and his immaculate progeny. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to yet another edition from series of Quran and Today's Life. In our previous shows, we have been starting a discussion on the spirituality from a Quranic perspective. We talk about self-purification and different concepts and, let's say, denotations and connotations of spirituality in the Holy Quran. We talk about, in fact, spirituality as a holy war, or let's say as a jihad. We talk about spirituality as a treatment and also spirituality as a journey. Inshallah, in this very session, we shall be trying to talk about some practical, in fact, instructions out of Quran and traditions and narrations in order to be, in fact, overcoming the soul and the self, in order to bringing up ourselves based on a Quranic teaching. For this, we are joined by Sheikh Hujjatullah Dawoodi, Islamic scholar and respected expert of this show. But before starting our discussion and asking the first question of this show, I'd like to welcome Sheikh Dawoodi to this show. Say salam to you and welcome.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And I am so happy again that we are going to have another, session together.
Inshallah, it's our pleasure. Sheikh Dawoodi, if you remember, we have been talking about the spirituality in Quran, and in our previous show we specifically talk about the spirituality as a journey. And we promised the respected viewers to talk about the practical, let's say, instructions received by scholars, which in fact was extracted from the Sunnah and also the Quranic sources. Can you please tell us what should a traveler know and practically do in order to, in fact, be acting based upon the Quran and traditions and narrations of the Prophet and the Imams?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khayri khalqih. Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'sumin. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, and we seek refuge to Allah from the Satan. Yes, we talk about the spirituality in different points of view, different angles. And finally, as you mentioned, we are going to, inshallah, discuss about the practical ways and instructions that, we need to purify our soul. And as a struggle with ourselves, we need some instructions. Referring to verses of Holy Quran and the sources from Islamic, teaching that we are in hand, available in our hand, we find out that there are some ways and of course some instructions. One of the most important ones that I want to mention at the beginning is, the things that we do not talk too much. When you refer to some words of Urafa, and Gnostics, they say that speaking too much is really harmful. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the people say, why speaking? Speaking is not bad because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the, a special power to speak. And this is very useful because communication is a need for human beings. And without communication, the human beings cannot, go forward. And of course, the prophets, without speaking, without this type of communication, couldn't
transfer the message.
Of course, transfer the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we see that it is very useful and important. Mm-hmm. Why they say it can be harmful sometimes? We say because speaking too much is harmful, not just the absolute speaking.
Okay. So is the basis of this, let's say, order, is the word of Gnostics and Urafa, or no, it should have a Quranic or, let's say, a source in the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt?
Of course, no. when I mentioned the Urafa and Gnostics, I do not want to say just they said this. I say that they emphasized, because we receive it from the sources of Holy Quran, sources of Islam, and the teaching of Islam. We receive it from the words of A'immah, infallible Imams, peace be upon them. It is very important. Lots of our sins has been committed by our tongue. It is a warn, because with our tongue, which is very, very small, we are doing lots of
the biggest
sins.
of the sins.
Of course. So it is very important. Sometimes a person came to the Prophet and asked him, "Would you please advise me?" قال له رجل أوصني, give me an advice. What did the Prophet said? When you refer to someone who is a great person and you ask him to advise you, you need that he say some words, and to make a speech for you. But just one word, did the Holy Prophet answered him with one word, He said, my advice is this, احفظ لسانك. Keep your tongue. Oh, what does it mean? Again, he asked the Prophet, would you please give me an advice? And again, the Prophet, repeated the previous word, the same word. So,
does it in fact show the importance of this advice, or no? Maybe that person was in fact inflicted with these diseases.
But both of them can be, used in, the answer of the Holy Prophet, because the Prophet knows the people. He was the Prophet, and those people who are going to guide the others are being called as Tabib, the physician. Tabibun Dawwarun bitibbihi. It is very famous that, they are, of course,
physician of the spiritual diseases.
Of course, and of course, they cure their, patients differently. Sometimes two patients come to, this physician and ask him that we are having the same problem, but the treatment would be different because
it's quite natural, because even in the physical, let's say, treatment, the prescriptions are quite different from one patient to the other. In fact, the spiritual diseases have their own natural, let's say, problem. That's true.
But the case that I am talking about, the person didn't come to the Prophet and say, I have this problem, and would you please give me an advice? Generally, he asked him a question, would you please give me an advice? He didn't talk about the problem that he had. So the Prophet generally said, احفظ لسانك. So we say that sometimes keeping the tongue, not speaking too much, is useful. Referring to our, of course, we say the intellect. We can find out that, of course, listening is much more useful than speaking. Those people who are listening too much, they can learn too much. But those who speak too much, they do not let the others to speak, and they cannot earn anything. Or they earn less.
So this was as the first, let's say, practical advice on the self-struggle, or let's say struggling the self.
Yes.
Not speaking too much.
Not speaking too much. But sometimes the people ask this question, why do people, they speak too much? Say, because it is so easy. There is a proverb that they say, action, speaks louder, because sometimes when we act to something is much more difficult than speaking. Speaking comes from the, mouth, easily goes. And of course, because with this type of effort, we do not need to spend money to try so much. And so speaking is so easy. Because of this, the people speak too much. So the first instruction from the Islamic teaching, we received that not speaking too much is one of the instructions and ways to struggle with ourselves.
Are these instructions that you're mentioning are based on the degree of their importance and priority, or no? They're just based on some, let's say, you have just collected them.
I think it is based on the, importance,
their importance and
of
priority.
course, yeah.
Okay.
Because at the beginning of Islam, many people put something, under their tongue, not to speak too much, as a remembrance. When they wanted to speak, there was something inside their mouth. They, mentioned that they shouldn't speak too much.
Was it at the time, at the dawn of Islam or before Islam?
No. Exactly at the time of Islam,
Okay.
Those people who were, Muslims, not for a long time, newly Muslims.
Okay.
So they wanted to practice not to speak too much. They put something under their tongue, not to speak too much.
Okay.
Of course, we do not want to say that it is necessary for the people to put something under their tongue not to speak. But I want to say that the importance
we have
of it.
some evidence of that. That's true.
Of course. It means that everything which is haram and forbidden, we shouldn't act to it. Okay? And everything which is wajib and obligatory, we act according to that. And not speak too much, it means just we act, practice so much, not to speak.
Is speaking too much haram?
No, it is not haram. But of course...
In fact, by these practical advices, we are talking about something which may not be haram even.
Yes.
But they are not good for the spiritual journey that we may have towards the perfection.
Yes.
Okay.
We call them advices,
Advices,
none
yeah.
of the advices are haram. Most of them are, recommended.
The recommended
Yeah,
ones.
of course.
That's true.
Yes.
Okay. The second one?
So, we say that, for example, some words that they are called backbiting is by speaking, which is very, very great sin. Speaking is not haram, but a special type of speaking is haram sometimes, like backbiting, qiba.
Yeah.
Qiba is haram in Islam, and sometimes it has been equivalent to eating the meat of a dead,
Brother.
of course, yeah.
That's true.
It is so, hateful. Yeah. So, not only in the words of the infallible Imams and the Prophet, even in Holy Quran, backbiting and qiba has been considered as haram and forbidden.
Exactly.
And also the rumor, when we are saying something which is not true among the society. Yeah. In Islam, it has been equivalent to eating the meat of dog.
So
Nobody
these
likes it.
certain types of speaking are haram.
Yes,
Rumors
yes.
and also backbiting.
Exactly. So,
And
because
by
you
haram,
asked me
we
the-
mean that is quite forbidden in some, because we may have some, non-Muslim listeners and viewers.
of course, it is wajib
Yeah.
and obligatory.
So it's forbidden to be done, yeah.
So we cannot say generally that speaking is haram or wajib. Yeah, a special type of speaking is wajib, as you mentioned, like salat. Okay, the daily prayer is wajib. It's a kind of speaking.
Yeah, that's true.
And sometimes al-amr bil ma'ruf, joining to joining to good and forbidding,
The bad.
the bad and evil is wajib, obligatory. It is a type of speaking. And sometimes it can be haram, as I mentioned, like
In
qiba
backbiting
and backbiting.
Rumor.
Okay. And of course, it has got some effects on the others speaking, good effects or bad effects. And it is very important too, because sometimes when a special person is talking to the others, okay, it brings zulma, darkness to them. Yeah?
That's true.
Those people who have evil thought, when they speak to the others, it brings, darkness. But vice versa, there are some people, when they speak to the others, it brings, the light for them, okay? And makes everything clear for them.
Okay, thank you. I think if you are going to be benefited from all the instructions that, or let's say advices that you have prepared for us to, in fact, we said here in this session, we should cover them, inshallah, in this very session. We have a short break, inshallah. After our break, we'll be continuing our discussion with those practical, in fact, advices and the striking the self and the ways in this important journey that we have toward perfection. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a few seconds. Welcome back to Quran Today's Life and our discussion about spirituality in the Holy Quran. The topic of our today's discussion is about the, in fact, practical advices and instructions that we can take from the Quranic perspective, and also out of narrations from the infallibles on the struggling the self, and in fact bringing up the self in the best way possible from an Islamic viewpoint. The first practical advice, which was in fact explained by a respected scholar of this show, was in fact not speaking too much and avoiding speaking too much, because it has some consequences, as he mentioned. Rumoring and backbiting are two consequences, and let's say negative consequences of this speaking too much. We are listening to the rest of these advices, Sheikh.
Very good. So you mentioned that the first one was not speaking too much, and I just mentioned one, hadith that La ibadata kasamt. There is no worship as keeping silent. So the second one, which is also very important, not eating too much. Yeah. Kulu washrabu wala tusrafu. In Holy Quran we have some verses that, speaking at a special amount, and also eating must be at a special amount too. Because why do we eat? Referring to some words from Imam Ali alayhi salam, he mentioned that I eat because I keep silent, so I keep healthy to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So
even our eating is, is meaningful here.
Very good.
In fact, we are, based on our Islamic teachings, even every act of us has some, divine objective behind it.
Yes, and of course, even our eating can be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, we cannot say for my pleasure. No, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Exactly, yeah.
And of course, we can get closer by our eating even to Allah. Because Imam Ali said, I eat not to, for example, not for my desire. Of course, I eat to get powerful and to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it has very bad effects on our soul, eating too much, because it makes us sometimes lazy. You see lots of people, they are not in a mood to worship God. They are not in a mood to help the others. And of course, lots of, physical disease come from eating too much. So overeating, causes different diseases in our physical body. And when our body physically has been infected and is, struggling with different, illnesses, we cannot.
And it will affect our spiritual journey.
Of course, yeah. Because in some hadith, we have this word that those who are healthy in their mind are those who are healthy in their body. So it is very important. Eating too much is harmful both for the body and for the soul. I also mentioned that in Holy Quran we have Kulu washrabu wala tusrafu, because overeating, israf, and overusing is haram in Islam. I think that would be enough, and let's go to the third instruction. Yeah. Okay, the third instruction is not sleeping too much. So the first, not speaking too much,
not
eating too much, and the third one,
not
sleeping too much. Sleeping is necessary for the soul and body.
Before going to sleeping, do we have any recommendation on the amount of eating? How much should one eat per meal that he has?
Yeah. Okay. Referring to some, hadith from the Holy Prophet, the Holy Prophet said, okay, do not eat too much that you are completely stuffed. Okay, so a little that is being left to be stuffed completely, okay, you stop eating. This is the recommendation of the Prophet, Holy Prophet. And of course, generally we say, eating as much as we need.
So it's a wrong idea.
Of course, yeah.
Very true.
So the third one, not sleeping too much. Sleeping is necessary for the soul and for the body. I remember one of my friends mentioned, I don't know what happened in our soul, that when we are so sleepy, we cannot even, take this paper. It is very light, but when I am sleepy, I cannot do it. And of course, my will, my free will cannot overcome, my attention when I am sleeping. I am sleepy. So it is very important to sleep, but too much sleeping, okay, it is harmful for the soul. And one of the instruction for those people who want to do the struggle better is, referring to some verses of Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recommend the Holy Prophet, قُمِ اللَّيْلِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. So just a small amount of the night.
You should have slept.
Of course. It is very important. And now if we refer to the scientists, okay, they have reached that sleeping too much is not useful even for the body. So a special amount of sleeping is necessary for the body.
That's true.
And oversleeping is useless and harmful.
Right.
So in Surah Al-Dhariyat, إن المتقين في جنات وعيون وكانوا قليلا من الليل ما يهجعون. Who are those muttaqin? The pious people, those who that they sleep about a little at night.
A part of night.
Yeah, a part of the night.
Mm-hmm. It means maybe, a small part of the night.
A small part of the night, where the night starts when the weather, when it is dark, maybe, of course, different because of the different parts of the world. But about 7 or 8 at night, it gets dark until the sun rises.
Sunrises, yeah.
So from the sunset to the sunrise is called night. So the people do not sleep all of the night, just one small part of the night. Maybe 6-7 hours is enough, but not much more than that. So I mentioned scientifically that about 6-7 hours is enough, but when we refer to some of the ahadith, even they have mentioned that 4 hours is enough. Of course, it is different from different ages, of course, but just a small part of the night is enough for sleeping. So sleeping too much is harmful for the even body and the soul. It makes us lazy and lazy and lazy. Not necessarily all of the sleeping is useful for the body.
We'd be thankful to ask you to have the rest of these instructions because we have some less than 4 minutes to finalize our discussion. And these instructions are really interesting and even looks like working for one to be, in the way of, in fact, this journey toward perfection.
I shift to the fourth one, and I would like to say that the fourth one is we set a special time for thinking. I mean to have a time to contemplate, to
contemplate
think.
On what?
About our past, about the things that we did. Are we closer to God or not? So we put a special time to think about ourselves. It is very important.
Suppose that we think about our past actions and let's say our last years, then we see that what faults we have done then and what mistakes we have committed then. What should we do then?
Because if
it makes us a bit dark or no?
Yes, thinking about the past, can help us to be better and better. You see some people who are the drivers of some cars that they go for some special courses. They are going to be filmed, and after that, when they come back, they again review the movie, and they find out their faults.
Very nice.
in some football players, after the soccer match, they come back and they review it again
In
to
fact,
find.
it's a sort of correction in our
Of course,
actions.
of course,
Very good.
This is a type of instruction that they can help the people to find out their problems, because we are going forward and we do not know what happened before that was false.
Yeah.
Nobody is going to all the time mention those false activities to us.
Should we specify a certain time to this thinking, or does that?
Sometimes, in Islam, they say before sleeping is the
Yeah.
best time, because we are not in a hurry to do something after that. And if we are completely calm, we want to rest. Now there is enough time to think about our path. So every day, if we do it, it would be useful for us, because we are reviewing our daily. And the last one, the last instruction is all the time we mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Very nice.
This is the last but not the least. I think it is the most important one.
Very beautiful.
That keeping
Just
Allah
to remind Allah
subhanahu
subhanahu in
yes,
every actions of ours.
in every action.
While the Quran says, Allah bidhikrillah tatma'innul qulub.
Allah bidhikrillah tatma'innul qulub.
Thanks again for the enlightening answers that you have provided us in this fair show, and you respected viewers for watching us up to this point. Inshallah, we shall be continuing our discussion on the spirituality in the Quran in our coming sessions. Inshallah, we have 3 more sessions, inshallah, on this concept. In our today's show, we talk about in fact, practical advices and instructions out of Quran and narrations of the infallible Imams in order to struggle ourselves and to bring up ourselves based on Islamic teaching. We hope that these instructions will be helpful to you and useful to you as it was to us. And also, we again hope to have you in our next shows. Till then, have a very good time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.